What is leadership for you, if you were to define it in a sentence?
I love this question. In a sentence, I can tell you what leadership is not to begin with. It is not, I'm the king of the castle and you all do as I say. It is no longer that. We say that leadership today is pluralistic. It's not an individualistic role anymore. You cannot lead without your followers. Even Harvard offers courses on followership. It's part of their executive leadership program. So we really now today have to consider our team as and who's following us and what's in it for them to want to follow us. Leadership today must, especially through COVID and as we enter this new normal, next normal, whatever that's going to be, it has to be humanistic. We have to bring in new core values. I work with women from the United Nations, and I love that one of the main core values of the United Nations is care. We have to, as leaders, we have to care. The whole planet is living in a psychological war zone right now. I mean, we just thought that if we had our vaccines, that we could go back to work, and then along comes another variant of this virus. We have been living in a psychological zone of fear, of not knowing, well, how will this affect our children? As a business owner, how does this affect our business? We have to bring in empathy. Leaders must be empathetic right now. Before, whatever was happening with your family, that was kind of your problem. You're here to work with my company. That doesn't work today. Plus, people today are smart. Many young people say, well, why would I help build your dream? I want to build my dream. Leaders have to know, how do I get my team to buy into our vision? You know what I know that leaders have to remember? I've been in the business of human development for 50 years. People, no matter, and I've worked with some nasty CEOs from the very high level. These guys are not nice people, but they're powerful and they're really good at getting results. That's why they have those jobs. But you know, I've never met a person yet who did not want to be part of something bigger than themselves. Every human in my 50 years of coaching, when asked, how would you like to leave the world when you're gone? They all say, I want to leave the world a better place. If you want people to follow your vision and help you create your vision, then you have to include them, give them a sense of belonging so that they say, this is the best organization in the world. I'm on the best team in the world. And you have to do that through empathy. You have to listen. How are your kids? Did you find the right tutor for you? You've got to listen. You've got to interact. There has to be communication from the top down, yes, and communication from the bottom up. It's got to be that way in today's world. Otherwise, I'm training a group coming up here in Dubai early next week, and I asked them, why are you hiring me to train? It's because we feel that our team does not feel that they belong. So how do you do that? Well, you get them involved in sharing your goal, your vision, making them feel like you can't do it without them. Got to make them feel important. You have to listen to them. This, to me, leadership today is about bringing out the best in people so that they will buy in to your vision, your mission, your goal, and help you to succeed. Because that's what they want to be. They don't want to be on the outside. They want to be part of something. We all want to be part of something that's working. I've never met a person that doesn't want to be part of something successful. Talk to them. Listen to them. My dear late brother used to say, 2 ears, 1 mouth. As a leader, you have to use them accordingly. Listen twice as much as you speak, and especially now in these troubled times of this pandemic that just seems to keep coming back at us.
What would you say would be the top 3 problems that they normally face?
Well, in today, the number one is you have to be agile. You have to be willing to take a risk. Nobody's going to die. I mean, you don't fail unless you quit. You can try something. If it doesn't work, you can go back to the drawing board. you've got the number one thing is an unwillingness to change. Now, we always say people don't want to change. That's not true. People don't want to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we communicate that change? So the first thing that leaders have to accept in 2022 is you have to be agile. It doesn't matter how you did it before, because that is not this. We are not living in that world anymore. And we are not going to be living in that world because, as you said at the beginning, this pandemic could hang on for another 5 years. And experts are saying if not this one, then the next one.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be another one coming. So we really have to know how to be agile. I alluded to it a little bit earlier. I'm a communication person first and foremost. You can be a great communicator, doesn't mean you have to be a leader. But if you are a leader, you have to be a great communicator. And this is one of the biggest issues. George Bernard Shaw said that the biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has happened. How many times have we had conversations and we feel that we've been very clear on what we say, and then a week later you say, but don't remember I told you, and they say, you never said that, because they heard something different. We must take time to communicate. Don't just tell. Communication isn't telling people what to do. Communication is from community, it's an exchange, a back and forth. We have to learn, and this is why I say top-down communication, bottom-up communication. We have to get out of our ivory towers as leaders and come down and talk. And then we must listen. We must consider, not just listen while we're swiping our phone. I mean, listen with both ears. The best communicator is the best listener. So they've really got to focus on understanding strategic communication. People don't really understand what that is. Strategic communication is how are you communicating your brand, your vision, your goal, so that everybody sees it. You see, when we understand in the English language, when we fully understand, we say, I see what you mean. How does the human being process language? We process it visually. If I say, don't think of a table, right here, we hear it, but we don't know what it means until the brain says, oh, she said table. Oh, she said, don't think of a table. But the first thing that we do is we see it, and then we negate it, and then the brain says to the ear, oh, she said, don't think of a table. This is how we process language. This is how we understand language. So when we're communicating, leaders have to understand this. They used to call communication a soft skill. They don't now. It's now considered a hard skill. Because so much goes by the wayside because we think we communicate, but we have not checked to see if they see. You see, if somebody says, I think I know what you mean, that's not the same as I see what you mean. I think I know what you mean implies doubt. We've got to communicate and listen so that we are sure that everybody is in alignment or on the same page. So that's a really important thing. And I mean, there's many things. So it's agility, it's the communication. And I think leadership is situational. If you are sticking to one style of leadership, you're going to have trouble. So if we look very quickly at the EQ of leadership of Daniel Goleman, he comes up with 6 basic styles of leadership, and it's all situational. A leader must be a vision. You've got to have a clear vision. You have to know how to articulate the vision, because if you want me to get in a boat with you and you don't know where you're going and you don't know how you're going to get there, I'm not getting in your boat, girl. I got to be able to see where we're going and why we're going there. Otherwise, I'm not buying in, and I'm not going to paddle your boat with you because I don't know where you're taking me. So if I don't see your vision, now you have to come and coach me. A leader has to be a coach. A leader has to care enough about their team that they can coach that team to see that vision, to get them to buy into that vision. There's the associative style of leadership, where a leader understands that the well-being of the team is really important. If you want to get to the bottom line, you better make sure that your team is doing well. There's the democratic style. Sometimes a leader has to say, I don't know, Marilyn, what do you think? Doesn't mean that you decide for me, because I'm the leader. The buck always stops with me. I have to make the decision, but sometimes I'm going to be democratic. I'm going to ask my team, I'm going to be vulnerable because leaders have to be vulnerable. As Brene Brown says, vulnerability is not a weakness, vulnerability is a strength. So sometimes we have to be vulnerable and say, what do you think? And then go away and make our decision based on listening again. And then there are the other two styles of leadership that we use intermittently. One is called the pace setter. That's like pushing to a deadline. Leaders make a big mistake. I worked in an organization once as a volunteer, and this president was, everything had to be done last night at midnight. Everything was, I mean, I took in the job and within 5 days I was 52 emails behind. I panicked. Like, I can't be, in my business, I can't be 52 emails behind. My business would fail. So we need to make sure that we only use deadlines when the deadline is necessary. And the final one, and this is what I really want people to hear, is the least effective style of leadership and the most used, and that's the commanding style. And this is where leaders have to choose. It is not my way or the highway. It is not do it because I said so, because they will not do it. So these leadership, those are just 6 basic styles. And you have to go in and out of it. If the barn is on fire, if something is happening, then you have to be commanding now. But you've got to be ready. You can't just sit there in your ivory tower and say, well, this is my style. That's not leading. That's commanding, bossing. It's not leading. You have to be with your people. You have to make sure that they see what you're trying to get. You have to communicate it. See, leadership is an inside job and it's situational. Those are two things I always start all my leadership clients off understanding.
What are the important leadership capabilities or skills you must have in the next normal to continue to lead effectively? If you just, if you were just to name at least 3 or top 3 um, capabilities or skills.
Well, you need to rewrite your core values to make sure that they are including human behavior. So, that's why care, empathy, become humanistic. My dear late mother used to say, you may think you're better than someone else, but when you get up in the morning, we all put our pants on the same way. We all get dressed the same way. Nothing is different. So that's number one. I cannot stress it enough. People are afraid to take a risk. You take a chance. Life is, you go in your car, you're taking a bigger risk than you're taking getting your team to do something that's never been done before. You've got to believe in yourself, especially as a leader. Do you know there's not a problem that comes into our mind for which we cannot find a solution? Every problem that we have, there is a solution. We have to have courage. Leaders today have to have courage more than ever, in my opinion. We have to trust ourselves, believe in ourselves, believe in our team, hire people that you can believe in. If you can't trust your team, you either better train them or get a new team that you can trust. There can't be this great divide between you and them anymore. You've got to sit at the table with them. You've got to co-elevate together so that you all cross the finish line together. You cannot be higher than them. So you've got to get out of your ivory tower, come down to the grassroots. I love the work of Dr. Edwards Deming, who was really the founder in many ways of the Toyota movement. Not well loved in America and went to Japan and was very successful there. And I want leaders to hear this. 95% of problems that happen down on the floor, whether it's in the factory or in the office building, are not because of the employee. They are because of decisions made in the boardroom. Leaders must take responsibility for the results or the lack of results that their employees are getting. If your employees, if they're not closing that knowing-doing gap, you better find a way. You know why they're not doing it? Because they know what to do, but there's no human element to it. Look at every one of us on this call. If we feel that there's something good and worthy, we want to be involved in something bigger than ourselves, we will do it. We will do it. But if we feel it's just to help that guy over there get his $6 million a year, we don't want to do it because you're making $6 million and I'm making $100,000. You do it yourself. This is human behavior. So if there's a problem, if your staff, your employees are not performing, do not blame them. Go back to your boardroom and ask yourself some really important questions. Why? How can we make this better? So I think, agility, listening, and better communication, taking responsibility, there's more than just three. Get your courage together, take a risk, mitigate it. But what's the worst that's going to happen? You don't have to write the risk in blood. You can use an erasable pen. You start out, if it doesn't work, put a stop date on it. If we don't accomplish this by this date, then we're going to rewrite this risk. Nobody's going to die. So let's go back to being human beings. If we're going to focus always on human doings, then we're always going to be critical. You didn't do that right. That's not done right. I want you to do this. Why are they not doing it? Because we are not allowing them to bring their heart, their soul, their passion, their wisdom to the job. Let's break down the silos. Let's work together. Let's team out. Let's ask people from different departments to come in and work towards that one goal. And another thing, so many company CEOs do not share their vision or their strategic plan with their employees. Like I told you at the beginning of this question, I'm not going to get in your boat unless you show me the map. You tell me where we're going. You tell me what route, and if not that route, there are alternative routes. If the storm comes up, we've got to find another route. But you have to know, I'm not getting in your boat if you don't ensure that we can get there. And another thing I want leaders to think about, how do we get our teams to speak up? We have to provide some kind of psychological safety for our teams. There's many articles on this right now. If you want to, I would suggest dive into it. We have to, the main way we do that is we listen and we accept them as human beings. And then they will feel, if you know this, we all know this, if we feel we're listened to, we will speak. If we feel that it's just going to fall on dead ears, I'll pick up my phone, I'll sit back, I'll think, what am I going to make for dinner tonight? I'm not listening anymore in the meeting. So the leaders must take more responsibility for their employees and the results. And don't blame. Stop blaming. If they're not doing it properly, it's because you have not given them the tools, the information, or that spirit, that encouragement, you can do it.